Tried to ask Daniel, he didn't answer. So
Lame.
I'm taking that as he does not like anymore. What was that, Eric?
Did he big league you?
Oh, big time big league me. Literally left me on red.
Oh, God.
That's brutal.
2 hours after, I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, what's your beef with me?
Oh, you'll find out.
It's you saying that he'd be the worst broadcaster. Now he has a podcast.
You, Aaron, shut up.
Micah is a scumbag.
Brian, you play the weirdest games on PS4.
You can't tell me that Ross. You can't tell me that Ross is as. You can't tell me that Flores is as good as someone.
You see, my Jedi powers are far beyond yours.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, The Gameplan. I'm Micah, that's Kris. And Kris, if you have any news surrounding all the leagues around, let's hear them right now.
Yeah, so we talked about this on Monday about the Big Ten coming back and how Ohio State had the easiest schedule. Nebraska is now fighting the schedule, saying that players and coaches have outspoken against the Big Ten because they feel like they were targeted to have the harshest schedule in the whole conference, because they voiced their opinions out early, saying that they were going to leave the conference due to Big Ten originally canceling their season. In the NFL, the 49ers put in a request to have the NFL and NFLPA to check the field of MetLife Stadium after they lost so many players due to injury. Both those NFL and NFLPA have said that the MetLife Field passes all regulations. The 49ers are still in protest about that because they did lose two of the high defensive stars. In the NFL and NBA have also voiced their opinions on the recent decision. Breonna Taylor, a lot of the NBA players have posted in their post-game interviews of the playoffs games. And we also have wild card matchups coming closely this weekend, with the National League coming down to 4 teams fighting for the last 2 spots for the postseason, which are the San Francisco Giants, Cincinnati Reds, Philadelphia Phillies, and the Milwaukee Brewers.
Thanks, Kris. I kind of feel bad for your 49ers. 17 of your starters are gone. I mean, it's not what really happened after your last Super Bowl appearance, which was in 2013, right?
2013, yes.
2013 against the Ravens. I mean, hopefully it doesn't cause another slump for the 49ers, and I hope a lot of your players come back healthy. Well, today...
Think for Trevor.
Today we're pleased to not only having another guest on our podcast, but we have we're fortunate enough to have 2 guests on our podcast today. Both of these guys have played a critical part within my time at Menlo College. Both are great coworkers to work alongside with each and every day. Though they may be a pain in my ass with sarcastic comments and god-awful team selection, I know I can they truly are a good duo of former coworkers that bring a little sun to every cloudy day at Menlo. Please allow me to introduce both Brian Brownfield and Aaron Flores.
Woo! Thanks for having us on, Micah and Kris. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Micah and Kris.
Thank you guys for coming on. I just want to know, what have you guys been doing to keep busy within now this pandemic?
Well, I haven't been doing a whole lot of anything really because, for the beginning portion of it, we didn't even have live sports, so it was pretty tough. A lot of just working from home, trying to keep up on some professional development type stuff that we can do on the side. And now that sports are back, honestly, I've been watching a lot of sports, more so than normal, which is scary because ordinarily that's pretty much all we do on a normal basis anyways.
Yeah, and for me, I started grad school at San Jose State, so I decided to go to school for 2 more years and put even more work on myself, so that's great. And I also picked back up golf, so Me and my roommate have been playing golf pretty often. Probably not good for the bank account, but it's fun. So
Ryan, what hobbies have you picked up aside from just working?
I really haven't been able to pick up a lot of different hobbies, but one thing I have done a lot more of that I get away from when I'm in season with collegiate athletics is I have been playing a lot more video games. We were talking about this before we went on, but Aaron loves seeing my name pop up on the PlayStation Network. I'm always playing something, in his words, super weird. Like lately, me and my buddies have really gotten into the newest craze, Fall Guys, that little jelly bean racing game where they bump into each other and they make fun little noises, and it's super quick, super fun. And I've just been really fortunate to have the time anyways to be able to take some time off, relax a little bit. I've gotten out there and done some hikes and stuff. So it's been enjoyable.
Have you gotten a crown and Fall Guys?
I have gotten 2, yes. So I am not completely hopeless.
2 more than I have. I have not played that game only because you have to pay for it. Have you guys played Among Us?
yes.
I have not, but my buddies have started playing it this week.
You seem like a guy that could win as an imposter against Among Us, Brian. You like to talk your way out of things.
I don't think I'd be very good at that. I contrary to what you might think, I'm not as quick on my feet as you would suspect. So I don't think I would thrive at that game.
Aaron, have you gotten any dubs in Among Us?
I have. Whenever I'm the imposter, I actually win, which is surprising just because I thought that I would be a terrible imposter. I am a good liar, but when it comes to like talking myself out of something, when I stutter a lot. Yeah, so that's usually doesn't help the case, but it's all about, I know my friends really well that I play with, so you just got to play to how they play, and usually it works out.
Yeah, like those 2 games, Among Us and Fall Guys, I haven't played yet. I've just been watching. Been streaming a lot, though. I've been streaming Call of Duty and NBA 2K. And since the new gen and all those new games are coming out, I'll be streaming those as well. That's just on my second channel as well. Chris?
So
video games?
I have been playing. I recently just picked up the game Among Us. Played a few rounds. It's a fun game. Haven't really run as the imposter yet. I usually get picked up like halfway through. Then another game that I'm picking up, it's a mobile game for the MLB Home Run Derby. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. Those are like just pretty much mobile games I've been playing.
That's nice. So as I said in the introduction, I know you guys from Menlo. I've known Brian longer than I've known Aaron. So let's talk about that. What game did we first meet at, Brian? Was it
what game? I don't actually remember our first encounter working at a game. That had to have been, it had to have been a soccer game because that's what happens first in the year. So it would have either been some type of soccer game or some type of volleyball game. But we've known each other for a couple of years now, and our relationship has continued to get more and more interesting with every single passing year.
Yeah. As I said before, me and Brian do like to argue a lot. And this is like on the smallest things. It's not like any big topics that we come up about. But funny thing about Brian, when he was working at Menlo after he graduated in 2015? No,
2016.
2016? December of 2016, right?
Yep.
Going into the spring, he had a huge ass bobblehead collection, and I decided to follow that. We made a bet. I don't remember what the contents of winning was, but I had more than him at the end of summer, and I ended up selling all of it.
Yeah, that really upset me because, as I recall, there were actually no stakes to the bet. It was just I didn't think you would come through and get more than me because you had a few months to acquire what I had done over the course of a couple of years. And you wound up somehow pulling it together. You amassed this giant collection, which was great, by the way. I thought it was awesome. And then suddenly you decided, oh, yeah, I'm just going to sell it all. Like, I don't think you made a profit on that. I'm pretty sure you lost money. So I don't know how that made sense.
I made $200.
How did you make $200?
Overselling and reselling and overcharging with shipping sometimes.
Hear that, internet? He's a scammer.
No, I'm
Don't
not.
listen to him. Yeah, you are.
I literally resell shoes too.
I'm
Yeah,
guess
you're a
you
scammer.
overcharge shipping with them too, huh?
Well, that's all the thing. They pay for it. I don't have to charge.
I make you pay $19.95 for shipping and handling.
That's a
And
little.
that's standard.
That's a
And
little.
shipping is what, like $5?
Yeah.
Aaron, I want to say our first encounter meeting one another was in the dorms. Actually, am I right?
I think it was actually in class because we had diversity in the workplace together. And my first encounter talking to Micah was our professor every day would make us say one thing that we're happy about and one thing that we're sad about. So my one thing that I was happy about was that Brian hired me on to the athletic staff. And when I said that, Micah sat in front of me and he literally turned around slowly and like gave me the up and down look, like, who the hell is this guy that's working with me now? And then my sad part that I said was I had to work with Brian. So that was matters.
Thanks, buddy.
How was that? Was it because you both were Salinas and you guys knew each other before you went to Menlo?
No, the Salinas duo connection is pretty strong. I think we had a pretty good work relationship together and still pretty good friends after. So I'm grateful for all the relationships I made working in Menlo athletics. I think that was one of the things that made my Menlo experience, and I think Brian can double up on that too and say that that was what made my college experience great. So
for Brian, I kind of want to pick at your brain. What was your best moment working for athletics as a whole, from the time you were a student to when you decided to quit on all of us? Especially for me and Aaron, who were both seniors at the time. You and Daniel just up and left. What were like one or two good moments while working for Menlo College athletics?
Well, as a quick aside, I'd like to point out that even though we quit on you guys didn't even make it to your own graduation, so it's perfectly fine. Like, you guys said we had to be at your graduation, and we weren't because there wasn't any. So thank you, COVID-19.
There was a YouTube link. Were you on it?
I was actually. Were you?
Yeah.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
So anyways, greatest memories. It's tough for me to actually like boil them down because there are so many great moments that I've had, being a broadcaster and being on the microphone that stand out to me. But one that I always remember is back, Micah, this actually was probably the year we met. It was 2016. It was my final soccer game as a student at Menlo. And Menlo College men's soccer, we were playing for the conference championship. The regular season conference championship would have been our first in school history. We take Hope International to double overtime. And in the second overtime, my freshman year roommate, Johnny Ench, on his senior day with his family and with his girlfriend in the stands, he hits this, I thought it was a cross going to the box, but he drew the keeper out and he shot it right over the keeper's head into the back of the net for a game-winning goal on senior day. And as a senior myself, that was a very special moment, getting to celebrate with him. I remember after the game, as the Oaks were coming back from all the handshakes and the celebrations, I got to hug Johnny. It was a really special moment for him. It was great that I was a part of it. And I always remember when I watch back the video, in the corner of the screen, I can see Micah jumping up and down, just losing his mind because he could not believe that we won that game. It was awesome.
It was me and I forget his last name, but it was Luke.
Luke Halgerson. Yeah.
We just both walk off. We both walk off onto the field like in disbelief because we didn't think we're actually gonna win that game, and they didn't go into overtime as well.
It was double overtime. Yeah.
It was full OT, and as you explained, it was a shot over the goalie, and I just was jumping around like I felt like it maybe had a lot of pride that day. I think one of the best moments that we shared together was the actual Kona trip.
Oh, hands down. That trip was so much fun. And for someone like me, I had never been to Hawaii before that trip. So getting to go to Hawaii for a work trip, especially being that it was like 2 weeks after I graduated, was so much fun. Getting to explore the Big Island a little bit, the free time we had, and of course the numerous hours we put in to try and get a basketball tournament to run at a high school gym. It was so much fun. And I know that experience was definitely up there on my Mount Rushmore of things I did at Menlo College. And I'm sure for you too, getting to go kind of home to work a Menlo event. Like, that's got to be pretty special.
Yeah, probably the one abnormality that college basketball doesn't. And Lucas, our former advisor, also talked about this as well. You weren't really allowed to switch balls, but with how humid it was and how hot it was in that gym, we're on the west side, which is literally the hottest side on the island, and it was just so humid within the gym. We're all sweating, like the ball is getting wet, and we're all just laughing behind the scorer's table, thinking this is not normal. You shouldn't be switching balls out, because obviously it's like a little bit of a rule that it could be playing with the balls or whatnot. But I think Kona was probably one of my biggest memories, because obviously first year coming into Menlo College athletics, getting to experience this with everyone after one Dave left.
Yeah.
Dave left. Lucas started coming in. I was kind of the role model for Lucas, aside from Aaron Gillespie and yourself, and then Daniel Romero, who also came with us, and as well as the other athletics coaches. It kind of made it as fun of a trip as we could, just with as much time as we had with each other outside of the actual tournament. Aaron, what were some of I know you're a student athlete. You also worked for us as well. What were some of your favorite moments working for Menlo College, or just being around Menlo sports in general?
What I can do is I can give you one from when I'm working and one from when I was playing. I can do that. All right. Yeah. So for when I was working, I was only there for 2 years, so there's only a handful of memories that I can think of. Pardon the cars. But there was one in particular. I mean, this last year, the women's volleyball team, watching them go on their run, that was pretty fun. Because that was the most that I've worked, is the Menlo volleyball. So just being around that was fun. And then as a student athlete, I would probably say some of the best memories were on the field. Probably my senior season, getting those 2 hits in the bottom of the 9th or bottom of the 7th innings. Those were pretty fun. Just to feel that pride in everything that I've worked for, just coming out right there. And then probably on the road, I just like going and eating with my teammates. I mean, people preach it, you don't remember the stuff that you do on the field, you remember your teammates. And I think the most valuable experiences for me as a student athlete were just making those friendships. And we went out to eat every time. We went to Mongolian barbecue, and we get every time, while everyone else went to IHOP. So for me, that was fun.
Probably one of the scariest moments. I think this was this past year, or it was the year before, our junior year, Aaron. But you guys remember the fight in Haynesbrim?
Oh yeah,
I am so pissed off. That's the one game I wasn't there for, because I was
You weren't there?
I was at the soccer
national
championship for the GSAC, and so I missed it. And so I just have to hear these stories, and every single time I hear these stories, I get so frustrated.
I just remember the coach.
Oh yeah, the coach.
The coach just came up and yelled at us.
No, not Lance Von Vogt. That's Bill Check. Bill Check. Sorry, that's Hope International. Bill Check. Yeah.
Yeah, he just yelled at us.
I'm for not doing anything. It's what are we supposed to do?
Can you guys give me some background on this? What happened?
So it was against Hope International, Menlo College men's versus Hope International basketball, and they had this former player in the stands, and he another student who never played basketball, was super close with a lot of basketball players on our team. He took offense to what this guy. He's a super the guy from the former player from Hope International was a super talker, and just would not stop talking. He would just talk trash the entire time, and one of our students took offense to that. I don't want to say his name, but he literally went up to the guy, and then they just started fighting. They just got off the bleachers and they just started fighting, and then their big Hope International's big ass center, who was about 280, and 6'3".
On a good day, 280.
On a good day, 280. Literally bolted across the baseline, near the scoreboard, and just not tackled them, but just got inside the fight and started swinging. And literally, you could see the entire Hope International going to just fight 2 of our students, while everyone on our team was held back. All the women's team literally ran over just to go film it. Some of our other students, some of our other lassies, went over there to try and help. And then all the time this was happening, I went up to try and do the referee's locker room. And then when I come back, all I see is this is the funny thing. Our athletic director was about to leave, literally about to leave the game. Literally steps from the door of getting outside, and as he hears yelling, turns around and just bolts. And he has like 2 kids with him, and his wife is on top watching it because she's the women's coach. And she comes down, has her kids with her, and he just bolts and just trying to pull off our students from fucking around with the Hope International team. I was pissed because I never actually got to see the first altercation. I don't know, Aaron. What did you experience during that? Like,
I was finishing up the stat sheet. I was giving the stat papers to the coaches. I turned around to go unplug a wire, and then I just hear when basketball players run like their shoes.
Yeah,
I heard a lot of that, and then I heard a lot of yelling. So I turned around, and then there's this big old pile of people in the corner by the exit. And I look at Daniel. I was like, wait, what the hell's going on?
Yeah,
that's all. I didn't see the initial contact either. So
yeah, that was probably one. I pissed that I missed it too, like a smidge much, but I got like the backlash of it. 2, I was a little like I had Connie Yellow's back, our former men's basketball coach, the entire time. I was just making sure him and his staff were okay. And then 3, I kind of was just doing damage control at the end because not all of our student athletes. So I was the only intern. Not really all of our student workers, not student athletes, were kind of in the right mindset to go talk to other people. So I went to go talk to Hope International side and Menlo side. I mean, Menlo side was hot already, and then Hope International was like stunned at what just happened. Speaking of Brian's experience during that, you went to go announce at the NAIA national championship. How was that in comparison to a regular G-SAC game or just a G-SAC tournament?
It was a lot of fun being down there for those tournaments. I did 2 of them. That was the first year, 2018. Then I went back again last year once I left you guys at Menlo. And it's a lot of fun. You're obviously getting to see some of the best soccer players, not just from the country in the NAIA, but really it's such an international sport that most of these rosters, I mean, you'd have guys where there's only 1 or 2 American-born kids. Everybody else is international. So you're getting to see some of the best soccer talent from the world. The production is obviously a lot more, a lot bigger, a lot on a bigger scale. The guys from ESPN are coming in to produce the broadcast. So it's really cool getting to work with them, having the broadcast producer kind of speak into your headset as you're trying to talk, get the feel for what a legitimate broadcast is like. And it's in a big stadium. So that of course was a lot of fun, and really glad I got the opportunity to do that for a couple of years.
Kind of a question for all of you. I know my kind of favorite. I struggle with doing play-by-play, but I like color com because it kind of takes away from the action and like has a bigger perspective. What are your guys' favorite style or ways of commentating? Is it play-by-play or color com? I'll start with Brian, obviously.
Well, obviously it's play-by-play because I feel like to be a great analyst, you have to have perspective playing the sport, or at least a real strong grasp on the sport. And most of the sports that I do, I never played aside from baseball. So I can be an analyst for baseball, but for the other sports, play-by-play is where I'm best.
Aaron?
Yeah, I have to agree with Brian. And then, I mean, I'm pretty biased, but Kris and Micah do a pretty good job.
They do.
Kris?
Wait, was that the question?
Huh?
Were you asking who is the best, or which position is the best?
Which position, like color comment or play-by-play?
Oh,
and
okay.
he was just showing an example. Kris?
Okay.
Chris, that's a question for me as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what our guest just said, like, it's pretty hard to do a color commentating if you don't know the sport. You could probably make up a lot of shit, but like once the fans like figure it out, it's like you're out of there, like shit, really quick.
Yeah.
So I do that a lot when I'm in the analyst role and I don't know the sport. Like whenever I have to do basketball analyst stuff, no idea what I'm talking about. It just fake it till you make it.
Well, let's get down to the nitty gritty of where you both came from, which is Salinas, California, which is a couple hours south of the Bay Area, like 2 or 3 hours south.
1.5.
1.5. Okay. So Brian, I'll start with you. Well, actually, I'll start with both of you. Both of you went to Palma High, and Aaron, in your Unrooted interview, you said that you and your brother and Brian had a connection together?
Myself and Brian's little brother were in the same graduating grade, and we've played baseball together since Little League. So yeah, I've been around the Brownfield family for a while now, and even during the summer or during like the winter breaks before season would start, just to get some reps in, I'd play men's slow pitch softball with Brian's little brother and Brian's dad. So that was always a fun time.
Brian?
Yeah, the connection's pretty strong there, and it's funny. Aaron can attest to this as well. But I actually was the one who helped get him from Palma to Menlo. It took a while to get him there, but I did on the second try after he spent a couple of years here in the on the peninsula. He wound up going to Menlo College, and so you can thank me for one recruitment to Menlo College over the years.
So for both of you, how was Palma High? I mean, I obviously haven't heard of it because I haven't been to Salinas. Yeah, how was the athletic atmosphere there, and how was the athletic atmosphere and entirety of Salinas?
Based on, I mean, I'll go first then. I like to think, at least for Palma being a all boys private high school, it kind of, you get that feeling, right? That, okay, I'm here for, I mean, obviously for the Palma has a great college prep education. The classes there are good. Their instructors there are good. But people are there to play sports and get noticed by schools as well. They get their football players in the good schools. It's one of those like big football schools, like a Sarah. I would say I'd compare Palma to Sarah just because they're all boys, and you know what I mean. But the athletics there were good. Obviously, you're not playing in the like West Catholic leagues, like the Bellarmins and the Sarahs and the St. Francis's.
Mm-hmm.
But there's good competition in our league, and I would say like the overall athletic ability of like Salinas is really good. I think it's a lot better than people expect. And then like we have guys, obviously another guy from Menlo or from Salinas that goes to Menlo who's really succeeding right now is men's wrestler Riley Siason. I went to Alvarez and he's just awesome at what he does. So Salinas breeds really good athletes, and I think you'll see a lot more guys from Salinas at the collegiate level for sure.
Brian?
Yeah, the athletic scene over there is pretty good, and Aaron and I both played baseball for our 4 years over there at Palma. It was pretty cool because where we were at Palma, we had the nice natural rivalry with Salinas High School because, at least on the baseball teams, because our baseball fields were like 1 block away. So it took you like 1 minute walking to get from Brother O'Grady baseball field to where Salinas High played. And so whenever we had to play Salinas, it was a very fierce rivalry. And like Aaron said, yeah, Salinas as a whole has some really good competition. We're not going to be up to the level of the schools that you have up in the Bay Area. So I think that's why a lot of times when we went on to CCS playoffs, it was a lot of early exits. But as a whole, the competition in Salinas is great. And like you said, there's some really good athletes that are coming out of there now, be it from the wrestling side. I know Alisal has a ton of great soccer players over there right now. And the baseball programs are no joke either.
Considering that Salinas is kind of by the coast, but it's kind of in the middle of California, would you say that Salinas is a beach town, or would you say it's like a country town, kind of?
Oh, man. I have this ongoing fight question with the former pitcher for the Menlo baseball team, Isaiah Espinosa. When I first met him, he was like, "Oh, so you're from Salinas? That's right by the beach, right?" And I was like, "No, it's not. It's like 30 minutes away from the beach." He's like, "Well, that's still right by the beach." And I was like, "No, no, it's not." But I guess from him being from Visalia, he's pretty far from a beach, so I guess 30 minutes is considered close to a beach. But I would say when you're from Salinas, you get a nice little mix of both. I mean, the beach is easy access, like 1 road down, but then you still get the whole salad bowl field or feel. You're surrounded by agriculture, and of course, that's what Salinas is known best for. So I like how it's a combo of both.
and known best for the largest and longest running rodeo in the state of California. So there's your country.
So for your athletes, are they like country strong or are they like athletic and quick?
Oh, I'd have to say both. You'll get,
okay.
especially, I mean, I like to think of in my grade in the graduating class of 2016, our football team, they were big. Like we had guys, I don't know how tall they were, but they were big. Like you'll get a good mix, especially in both sports. You'll get quick and you'll get speed and just pure athleticism, and then you'll get the big boys, big country fed boys. So I like how it's both.
Yeah,
So
hands down, it's all about the sport that you play. But those football teams, that was a staple of the teams that I was there for too, man. The offensive line, humongous. And I know one of the offensive linemen right now, Aaron, maybe you remember his first name, but one of the Apuliali'is got recruited and I think signed with UCLA, right?
Yeah, his name's Noah Pulele, I believe.
Yeah, I went to school with his brother Josiah, and their older brother was there a couple years before me. Man, they were all football studs, but Noah going to UCLA, it's big time on that line.
Well, first for Aaron, where did you go to JUCO or
I went to Monterey Peninsula College.
And how was? I mean, obviously, probably the academics isn't up to par as that of a actual accredited school, but what was it like? You know, the life of a JUCO athlete.
I mean, for me, we had a lot of international guys. Half of our team was Canadian. My first year there, we had guys from Australia, Germany. We had a lot of Japanese players. So for me, I think it was just awesome playing with guys from all over the place. I think that's a great pro of junior college is you get to play with guys of all ages. Like we had a guy that was like 28, and then there's me, little 18-year-old me playing. So I'm like, dang, you're old. But it's a grind. I mean, obviously you're not playing those weekend double headers like you are. You have the 3-day week series, but still you have to balance school, games, and practice. There's less limitations, so you can practice more and do whatever you want more. But you have guys competing to move on to that next level. You have guys that'll stop after. So for me, it was more, I used JUCO more as I want to find more about myself, like career-wise, what I want to do. Because out of Palma, I didn't really know what I wanted to major in or what I wanted to do in the future. So MPC kind of helped me develop my interest to what to do in the future, as well as continuing to play baseball. So it was kind of the best of both worlds for me.
Nice. And then you moved on to Menlo College. Obviously, Aaron, you only been there for 2 years. Brian and I'm going on 4.5, but Brian is going at what, 3.5?
It was 3.5 as a student. Yeah.
Kind of just what was your first impressions of when you first entered campus and when you kind of felt the dynamic with all the students around for both of you?
Yeah, when I got there, it was it's different than it is now, of course. But it's just the small school vibe is something that's really tough to beat. I mean, Palma High as a whole was 600 kids, and that includes the junior high. So Aaron and I were both used to that type of atmosphere. And it's something I wanted to get out of my college experience as well. And I got that. I got the feeling of feeling like a valued member of the community. I got to be involved in so many different clubs. I got the chance to work on campus, work in the field that I'm very interested in. And obviously I've now transitioned to full-time afterwards. And it was just such a great experience being at Menlo College for the time that I was, both as a student and an employee.
Yeah, and then for me, I mean, like Brian said, the small school vibe, you can't beat it. I've been around it my whole life, and that's something that I really wanted to get out of my college experience. And then, I mean, like I'm gonna sound like an echo, but like Brian basically touched on it all. Like you get the chance to work, you have a tight knit circle, you make connections, and of course, it's in the heart of the Silicon Valley, so everyone knows everyone. So that was good for me, and I think that I got the most out of it, so I'm happy.
Who's your guys' favorite professors?
I can answer this one easy. Mine's Dr. Sean. That's like I don't even have to hesitate to think about it.
Yeah,
that man is what the TikTokers like to say, a different breed of.
He was literally like he gets it. Like he, former student, got his PhD at what, 26 or whatever,
Yeah.
like something like that. Super young. He just understands what college students are going through at that time.
I would have to also probably go the sports route. I mean, I had a lot of professors who I was close to that weren't in the sports management program, but the two that I had, Professor Doug Carroll and Ron Kovis, they were two of my favorites. Carroll because I had him so many times, and I actually had him in so many classes that I had a dream about him the other night that I was going into another one of his classes. So it was really strange. And then the other one being Ron Kovis, who I had for a couple of classes, and unfortunately it was the semester that he passed away. But I learned so much from him in those 2 semesters, and he was really connected in the sports scene in the Bay Area, and those were definitely some of the most meaningful for me.
I'm pretty sure Brian can attest to this, but whenever you walk into Doug Carroll's class, it's never a hey by your name. It's hey dude. So let's just we'll move forward with Brian. We talked about Menlo College athletics a little bit, but how did you actually get your start within Menlo College athletics?
So I was actually someone who wanted to be a baseball player when I got to Menlo. I tried walking onto the team, had a tryout, and the head coach at the time, it was right before Jake McKinley took over, like literally 2 weeks before. Mm-hmm. He said, yeah, we can offer you a redshirt spot on the roster, but you're never going to play over the 4 years that you're here. Like, I'm just guaranteeing you now, you're not going to play. Yeah. And so that kind of pissed me off. And it actually, honestly, made me consider for a moment not even going to Menlo because I had my heart set on that. But I got to campus, got involved with a bunch of clubs. And right away, I didn't know, being how small Menlo was, if they did any type of sports broadcasting. And I thought, well, it's a small school, maybe they don't do it. And that's something that I really want to get involved with. So let's see if they have it. So I sent an email to Keith Spataro, who's the athletic director. And he said, yeah, come on up. We'll get a meeting with you and Aaron Gillespie, who was the sports information director at the time. And the rest is history from there.
Then, obviously, Aaron, you talked about your time at Menlo College athletics, but I don't know, what sport did you like to do the most? Obviously, you couldn't do any spring sports because you were playing baseball at that time, but during the fall and probably during the winter as well, what sports did you like to work the most?
No, well, for being a baseball player, I mean, I'm one of I don't watch too many other sports besides baseball. So I think for me, just being able to watch different collegiate sports like soccer, men's and women's volleyball, men's and women's basketball, I think it was always a learning experience for me, just because I wasn't just working, I was also learning how the game works, and just watching it being played at a high level. I kind of enjoyed all of them. So I mean, for me, I learned a lot. So yeah.
Nice. So Brian, you obviously started off in Menlo doing broadcasting. You kind of made that initiative to go ask our athletic director, Keith Spataro, and then that moved you forward with Aaron. And then it kind of moved you forward within the professional scene, and you did a little stint with the Oakland Athletics. Tell me how that experience was.
Yeah, so as a student, I was the recipient of the Bill King Memorial Scholarship given out every year to an aspiring sports journalism or sports broadcasting student in the Bay Area. Of course, Bill King is one of the best broadcasters of all time, and he did games for the A's forever, for the Raiders forever, and a little bit for the Warriors as well. So just to have my name associated with him in some capacity was a super big honor. I got one of those pregame ceremonies on field at the Coliseum one time, got the giant check. It was really cool. And the unfortunate thing was that was when the A's sucked. So it was 2015. They weren't very good. But I got to see him beat Houston that night. So that was always fun. And yeah, it was just a great experience to get to meet some of the A's broadcasters, get on the field before the game. One of the most special moments of my life.
Then you had that passion for broadcasting. Obviously, you've done it your entire life with, not your entire time with Menlo College Athletics, and that moved you to Oakland Athletics. But then you moved to the East Coast. Was it a AAA team or a AA team that you broadcasted for?
It was actually single A. So it was full season A ball with the Washington Nationals, the Hagerstown Suns. And for those of you who are interested, that was actually the year that Juan Soto started off at A-ball with Hagerstown. He got a hamstring injury in April and then missed the rest of the year. So the next year, the year after I was there, was when he had his big breakout. But that first season of Juan Soto was there in Hagerstown. That was also the Tim Tebow year when he played with the Columbia Fireflies. And I remember the first weekend I went out there for that experience as a broadcaster was the weekend they were coming into town for a 4-game series. We sold out all 4 games. He was in the starting lineup all 4 games. And I got his first at bat against the Suns. First pitch swinging, line drive to left field, base hit. The crowd went crazy. It was amazing how much they were rooting for Tim Tebow. But that whole summer was a great time. Definitely the best summer of my life. I got to explore the East Coast for the first time. Went all the way up to Maine. I got the Portland, Maine shirt on right now, actually. It was just a fantastic summer, and it was great to get to call baseball games every single day.
So, Aaron, you worked with Dr. Sean extensively, especially through our senior year together. And Dr. Sean started the Menlo College Sports Management Lab that he personally overlooks for mostly analytics and research projects that he has that he also works with NASA with. How was that experience? And how, obviously, I know you're in that lab now. How was that experience helping you through that time at SGSU as well?
Yeah. So I think that has a big impact on like how I'm doing my research right now. Obviously, the sports management lab, as well as the sports research class that we took together with 4 people in it, was the best class ever.
Best class ever.
Yeah. But just getting that head start on research. I mean, I never have conducted research before.
Mm-hmm.
So having that and creating my own research questions that I'm interested in have kind of helped me get a jump start in grad school, because all the classes that I'm doing right now are basically based around research, and I have to create 3 more research projects. So just compiling all the data, doing all the lit reviews, and kind of having that strong base that Dr. Sean gave us with the sports management lab has given me a head start, and I feel confident on what I'm going to do in the future.
Nice. What are some of your favorite projects that you've conducted or are going to conduct in the future?
Well, the one that I fully finished is gender inequality and stratification in MLB front offices. That one, I was fortunate enough to get that one into a conference. It was the North American Society of Sports Management. So unfortunately, it was supposed to be in Petco Park this summer, and we were supposed to present there. But due to COVID, that all moved online. But then some research projects that I'm conducting right now. I'm doing a piece on, I have to manipulate data, so basically make up fake data, on fan responses to professional athletes advocating for social injustice. So I think that one's good. It's a timely subject, and I'm interested to see that. And it's pretty cool kind of gathering all the data for that too, just because there's so much of it right now.
Nice.
And then another one is MLB marketing strategies and policies that they can change to get more fans engaged and interested in the sport and with the players, just because I feel like there's a big gap between the players and the fans in the MLB right now that can be fixed, because there's so many new, exciting, and more individualized players that are in kind of getting noticed in the league. So.
Nice. To kind of ended off with, your professional and collegiate careers. Brian, you moved on to St. Mary's, as we said. What are some of the big things that you notice, like the difference between Menlo and St. Mary's? Obviously, St. Mary's is a bigger division school, but from the athletic standpoint, just is like the pace of play faster? Is it like, is there more you have to kind of handle in your position? What is like the differences between that?
The pace of play is faster in baseball, I'll tell you that, because at least at the Division I level, they know how to throw strikes, and they don't know how to do that at the NAIA level. So 4-hour baseball games are a staple down there, but at St. Mary's, I think we only had 3. Granted, it was a shortened season, but I think we only had 3 games go over like 2.5 hours. Like, they were all super quick. It was awesome. Also, Aaron, I could see that look on your face. It helped that we didn't have any offense this past year. So all of our games were like 1-0, 2-1. So they were all pitchers. There's a lot of similarities, of course. In my position, the only difference really is that I handle half the sports. So instead of having the 16 sports that I have at Menlo, I now only have 8 at St. Mary's. So me and the other director of communications, we split up the positions. We don't have to handle any of the game operations stuff because we have a game operations staff. So we have a lot more freedom to focus on what we want to do, building a strategic communications plan for our respective sports, and then implementing those sports on game day. It's a lot of fun.
Nice. And you kind of mentioned that Menlo College does go 4 hours for one game. Who do you have to blame for that?
There's no one to blame for it necessarily. It's difficult when you play 4-game series in 2 days, and I mean, pitching staffs are just getting absolutely decimated because everybody there hits home runs, and then you're down to your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th pitchers for a series. And so it's a struggle of being at a smaller level like the NAIA. And that's why when you get into big tournaments, and especially those crazy 4-game weekend series, they're just so difficult to get out.
When it comes to probably the future for your professional careers, for both of you, where do you see yourself moving on if St. Mary's is in the track, or Aaron, once you graduate with your master's degree, where do you see yourself going?
Yeah, down the road, I think it's obviously hopefully going to be beyond St. Mary's. I mean, Micah, I want to be a broadcaster only, as opposed to having the other communications duties on top of it. So obviously I want to continue to chase that dream. Whether the next step is another Division I school or focusing specifically on broadcasting, I think that's the next step.
Yeah, for me, I really want to be in the promotion and marketing and event production side of it. Right now, I'm kind of doing it with the Quakes, but I haven't gone into work since March because there's no fans to engage in my fan engagement rule.
Are you sure?
Well, not in the stadium.
Okay.
You can't engage the cardboard cutouts?
No, I mean, you can make them have decorations, but other than that, yeah. No, but hopefully after my master's, I can continue to build my resume and hopefully end up in some future doing event production and marketing for a professional sports team.
Nice. Well, that kind of concludes your guys' lives. That section of the podcast.
Lives are over.
For the next section, we have probably one of the biggest Bay Area fans of all time, Kris, who's going to talk to you guys about your favorite teams, especially one questionable team that has built a rivalry, probably the greatest rivalry of all time with the NFL. Kris, talk about it.
Yeah, so I just want to get you guys' idea, what are you guys' favorite sports? I know you guys mentioned that you both played baseball in high school. Aaron, you played at Menlo. But what is your guys' favorite sport, favorite teams? Let's go with that right now.
All right. So favorite sports, obviously baseball. Kind of been a Giants fan my whole life. So those are my 2 favorite teams. Other sports, I mean, I'll watch other Bay Area teams, but I mean, I don't really adventure outside the realm of the MLB when it comes to professional sports. I've gone into the PGA Tour lately, so that's about it.
Yeah, on my side, I couldn't be a bigger rival to Aaron's baseball team. I am, of course, an Oakland A's fan, 2020 American League Western Division champions. So congratulations to them on that. For football, I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, if you couldn't tell from my background right now. Also like the San Jose Sharks a lot as well. So those are kind of my big 3.
Okay. Aaron, do you think the Giants are going to make it to the playoffs?
Ooh, well, as a fan, I hope so.
As a realist?
We have a chance. We're in there. You know what I mean? We just have to win a few more games. Obviously, the hard part is hoping other teams lose games. That's always one thing that sucks about sports. You always never want to have to rely on other teams to lose games. But there's 2 positives. If we make it, I'm happy. If not, and the Reds make it, I get to see more of Trevor Bauer, so that's fine with me.
Do you think Mad Bum could have helped you guys get over that hump, or
no?
Okay.
He's washed.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Hot take right there. Brian, how far do you think the Oakland A's are going to be?
I'm a realist, and I don't speak from the heart with a lot of the things that I say. I think they will struggle to get out of the first round. And I say that they're going to struggle to get out of the wild card round because they are one of the few teams that will make the postseason. The Giants would be one of these teams too, but they were one of the few teams that does not have a guy at the top of the rotation who you can count on to guarantee yourself a win. Like right now, where the playoffs are slated to go, the A's are the 2 seed in the American League, which means they would be facing Cleveland. They're going to lose to Shane Bieber and the Cleveland Indians in game 1. So now you have to win games 2 and 3. I don't think they can do that. So if they can somehow get out of the first round, fantastic. I think that's going to be a big struggle for them, even though I think they are talented enough to make a run.
Yeah, they haven't had really greatest luck past the first round. One that comes up to mind is when they faced, I want to say, the Tigers in 2014, losing after having a commanding lead.
Did you guys?
That was Kansas City in that wild card game in
Kansas
2014, and I still have nightmares about that game. So,
do you have nightmares about last year's game against the Yankees in the wild card spot?
That was actually 2 years ago. Last year was Tampa in the wild card round, and I don't have nightmares about last year's against Tampa because even though I was there, so I mean that was kind of cool to get to see the playoff game. But no, I'm glad it's a series this year, but it still sucks because in a normal season, the A's would just be moving on to the divisional series and wouldn't have to worry about this first round. So I think that does hurt them.
Who are you guys playing in this first round?
Well, right now it's Cleveland, but that's been changing every day. It's probably either going to be Cleveland or we'll fall to the 3 seed and get Houston, where there's going to be a lot of pressure against Houston because even though we're definitely better than the Astros this year, it's just that the Astros have been tested in the postseason, and can you take down the cheaters? And so that'll be a really fun series if it winds up being Oakland-Houston.
Okay. Last question for you guys talking about you guys' favorite teams. What is your favorite moment, either watching or being at the stadium, watching your respective favorite team?
Well, watching the Giants, obviously my favorite memory for me is the Pablo Sandoval 3 home run game.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever someone asks me what my favorite Giants memory is, it's that one. That one, or it's not really a Giants memory. It was something that happened in the ballpark. I was there in left field for batting practice, and Joey Votto threw me a ball. So that's one thing that I'll prize forever. I think Joey Votto is a great player, great guy. So that's something I'll cherish forever.
As you heard me list off my teams, the A's, the Cowboys, and the Sharks, I haven't had a lot of great memories to watch. They've all been painful and excruciating. So for me, this is very tough. But I was at the 2013 divisional series for Oakland, game 2, when it was Sonny Gray versus Justin Verlander. And Coliseum had 48,000 people that night. It was a sellout crowd. It was awesome. It was rocking. And Sonny Gray was a rookie, and he outdueled Justin Verlander in that game with 8 shutout innings. Oakland wins it on a Stephen Vogt walk-off base hit to win 1-0 in 9 innings. That was probably my favorite moment that I've actually gotten to experience in person.
Considering you guys are both big MLB fans, what did you think about in the beginning of the series when the Dodgers played the Astros and Joe Kelly was just heatering at all their batters?
You know what? I didn't have a problem with really anything that happened. I mean, some of the trash talking and some of his reactions might have been a little bit childish, sure. I thought it was pretty silly that he got an 8-game suspension for that. But it's such a tough line to walk here because Major League Baseball has this weird position where they granted immunity to the Astros players for this scandal, so they can't punish them. Mm-hmm. But then everything that happens against them, they can punish those people for. So like Joe Kelly for doing what he did, but it's perceived that he's receiving a worse punishment than the actual team did. But it's tough because Major League Baseball can't really do anything different because they said, well, we legally cannot suspend any of the players given that we gave them immunity to get the information. So it's a weird situation. I personally was glad Joe Kelly did it. And then I was also glad, in a weird way, I was glad when Ramon Laureano had his little thing with the Astros a couple weeks after that. just because the Astros are a bunch of scumbags and all they do is just want to fight you. So I thought that was actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, I have to agree mostly with Brian. The one point I thought the Joe Kelly reactions, like the were amazing. I have the Joe Kelly sad face meme saved on my phone for any purpose that it has to be done. The only thing is, like, I think the reason why he got that 8-game suspension is not necessarily, well, obviously for throwing at him, but it was towards their head.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing that's one thing that you never, or it's like, it's taboo. Like, if you want to throw purposely at a guy, back, shoulder, ribs, legs is fine. But when it's at the head, then I think that's where, like, you draw the line. Obviously, the Astros deserve it, but I think that's why he got that 8-game suspension. Why it was like kind of emphasized that, okay, if you do this, then we're gonna obviously punish you. Which, I mean, you can go both ways about it. So
The only time throwing at the head is acceptable is on MLB The Show.
yes.
And
I actually have a follow-up question about this. So the Dodgers played the Astros again at Dodger Stadium. They benched Joe Kelly for that series. Do you think that was a smart move by them?
Well, was he benched or was he still recovering from injury? Because I know he was dealing with a little bit of a problem that landed him on the injured list. Was he back for that series?
I think he was supposed to be back for that series, but I think they kind of kept him off the series because they didn't want him to be anywhere close to have another fight break out between those two clubs.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all right. The Dodgers are a deep enough squad that they didn't need him for those 2 games, and so I don't think they were missing anything by taking that safe route. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and kind of a connection to their 2017 championship, the Astros 2017 championship, when they played the Dodgers in the World Series. That was kind of the first of many scandals for cheating. What do you think should have been the result? Should they, I mean, obviously it's probably in the back burner right now, but should they have taken away the World Series championship away from the Houston Astros and probably just make it vacant, or just let them have it even though they cheated?
For me, I think, like, you necessarily don't have to. I mean, there's always going to be an asterisk next to it. I mean, even like if I were an Astros player and that happened, and like maybe I wasn't, obviously I was part of the organization, I can't wear that ring in public just because there's so much negative connotation towards that I'm going to be ashamed to wear it. I think for me, it's like one of the probably worst scandals baseball had. Like, I think you can't tell me that using steroids is worse than what the Astros did. And I will go on a full debate on you for it. Like, it's one thing using steroids, but when you're at that professional level, you're playing at the highest level and you're some of the best hitters in the league and you have that extra advantage of knowing what's coming, then that is a lot worse than using steroids. And especially, like, yeah, I don't know where I was going, but I'll cut it off right there.
I liked it. Go ahead, Brian.
I personally would be fine. I'm fine with us giving it an asterisk next to the 2017 championship, but I wish it wasn't us giving us the asterisk. I wish it was Major League Baseball acknowledging, hey, look, this World Series was tainted. Because you go back into the record books and you look at, what was it, 1918 or 1919 with the Chicago Black Sox scandal, where the players threw the World Series, that World Series has a mark next to it. Like, hey, look, this World Series isn't as legitimate as it should have been. And I wish Major League Baseball would do something like that for 2017. And maybe if they found enough evidence, I don't think they did, but you could maybe also make the argument for 2018 because Boston had their own thing going on too.
I didn't hear about that scandal. What was that?
Alex Cora was with that 2017 Astros team and then became the manager of the 2018 Red Sox and implemented a similar scheme into cheating against the Dodgers, well, throughout the season, but then against the Dodgers in the World Series and then won the World Series.
I see. A lot of good points, guys. For the 2019 World Series, do you think that was kind of slap in the face for the Astros when the Nationals won?
Yeah, 100%. And I think what made it even sweeter was the fact that they lost all 4 games of that series at home. right? The staple of what Houston had been the entire time was we're so good at home. And you look at the numbers in the postseason, they were almost unbeatable at home because that's where they were using a majority of their scandals. But Washington went into Minute Maid Park and beat them all 4 games in that series at Minute Maid to win the World Series. And as someone who kind of roots for the Nationals, since I worked in their system for one summer, that was so awesome to see. I was so happy for them.
Yeah, like same thing as Brian. Like as just a fan of baseball, that was such a fun World Series to watch. I like to think of the example when Bregman carried his bat all the way to first base, and then Juan Soto came up a few innings later and did the same thing because he thought it looked cool. Like I think that's so fun to watch. And yeah, I mean Houston's always good at home. So if you look at their starting rotation, they had Verlander, Greinke, and they obviously the Nationals were kind of I would say in my opinion because I thought the Astros were gonna win.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Just seeing the Nationals and especially 21-year-old Juan Soto, this kid's 1 year younger than me and just absolutely raking MLB pitching. I thought that was cool. So, yeah. And yes, it is a slap in the face to the Astros. They deserve a bunch of slaps to the face.
Oh yeah, they do. And kind of moving on, I kind of want to know your level of interest when it comes to different levels of sport to watch. Obviously, there's high school. There's a lot of noise within high school sports and a lot of, big athletic guys within football, baseball, and even basketball. Like these 6'5" kids, super skinny for basketball, and then guys with fucking anacondas for fucking hammers on the baseball team and just slapping balls over 450 yards outside of the fucking fence. And you have these big tanks in football for high school. But when it comes to actually watching sports, what level of sports do you guys watch? And that includes Kris as well. What level of sports do you guys like to watch?
Well, for me, I get enough of my collegiate fix from work. So I've never been someone who watches a lot of collegiate sports. I know once I transitioned to St. Mary's and we were right in the middle of basketball season. And of course, we have Gonzaga in our conference. And we're a basketball school. So there's a lot of talk about collegiate basketball and March Madness. So, eventually here this upcoming season, I'll probably start watching a lot more of Division I sports. But as a whole, I just get burnt out on collegiate sports. So a lot of times for me, it's professional or nothing.
For me, it's I like a little bit of all three. Especially in baseball, obviously I like watching professional because it's the highest level competition. For collegiate, I especially like watching the playoffs for college baseball. So the regional, super regional, and college World Series, just because those kids are almost the same age as me, or they are the same age, and they're playing at the highest level in college, and then every game's important. So I like seeing that sort of competition. And then in high school, I don't really watch too much high school sports. But if I do, it's just the perfect game, All-American game, because they're the rising seniors in high school and baseball, and they're all freaks of nature throwing 93 and 94. And I'm just what are your parents feeding you that mine didn't? So, yeah.
Kris?
I have to say, with the professional sports, these are the elite of the elite. They go out there and getting paid millions of dollars to perform, and it just miraculous how these guys could run at these elite speeds, throw nearly 100 miles per hour in baseball. But I do watch the occasional NCAA football and NCAA World Series when they bring it to Omaha.
Brian, we kind of talked about you being a broadcaster, but your last episode of Unrooted really did piss me off a little bit. I want to share my screen with you guys. We're going to be watching Jesus Christ.
We're watching Jesus Christ?
Wow, I can't believe you got fish for that.
That's incredible. What a guest to have on the show.
We're going to be watching this lovely person here. And
Wait, who is that?
That is old Brian Brownfield with the goddamn handlebars.
Yeah, that beard was ugly. I'm sorry.
It was. It really was. Don't worry.
No.
Tell me if you...
Back when I had a haircut. No way.
What?
Said, look, I had a haircut. Haven't had
back when you had a fade.
Yeah, fade.
Yeah, look at it.
I know. You look like BTS, honestly.
No, I look like Kim Jong-un.
Oh my god.
Wow.
So to give a little context this was the last episode of Unrooted ever because Brian was the host of it. And this was an episode for Brian, and Aaron, being a Salinas boy and also probably a closer friend to Brian during our senior year. He asked who would be a good broadcaster and who would be the worst. And I'm just going to play now just to kind of get it over with.
And holding a conversation. So I think Sam would probably be, he'd probably be on that list. He'd also make a great Frisbee player because he is tall.
Oh, yes.
The worst is a tough one for me because I think we have a lot of people who could pull it off. Mm-hmm. I think I'd probably have to go with Micah, who isn't necessarily a student worker for us anymore, but he has been for, over 3 years now. Micah knows a lot about sports, and he's very sports-minded. He's very good with video editing, and he's wanted to get involved with Unrooted for a while, and I think he could do a good job. But I don't know if Micah has the ability to censor himself on air.
I don't think so. Just being around him in the classroom and around the game environment too, I think you'd have to put a bleep button on the broadcast.
Maybe a bleep button. I mean, I'm honestly surprised that hasn't happened to me either because I'm such a Menlo fan. But I think that it would be almost like it'd be a combination of that, but it would also be, for those of you who don't know how RB broadcasts, he doesn't sit down. We always have a chair put up for him at the table because, that's what you do. You sit down and you talk. He ditches the chair completely and he just stands up the whole time. Sometimes he'll just bounce up back and forth between sitting and standing. So he's always on his feet and he's always moving. I think Micah would do that, but he'd be so tempted to celebrate as he goes on that I think he'd get distracted and it would be a tough time getting him through a game. As an analyst, I think he would do a great job.
Why me? Of all people, no. Of all people on our team, before this was actually aired, why me?
Because you were the first one who came to my mind.
Oh my God.
Literally, I did not look at the questions beforehand. So
yeah, thanks, Aaron, for changing it up.
I was going in blind, and you can thank Flores for the question, but the first person I thought of was Micah, and I honestly thought of you. I'll tell you why I thought of you. Remember the story I talked about half an hour ago about how you were jumping up and down celebrating a game-winning goal? That's what I thought of when that question was asked of me. I'm like, he would do the exact same thing. If we hit a go-ahead three-pointer with a minute and a half to go in a game, Micah's just going to lose the headset. He's going to run. he's going to try running in the opposite direction of where the mixer is, and the headset's just going to yank off because he doesn't realize it's on his head. That's what you would do.
I do thank you for saying I would be a good analyst because honestly, you are a good analyst as well outside of broadcasting. The second disrespectful part is you compare me to fucking RB.
Yeah, because of the energy.
I don't have that much energy.
Oh, you would on the air. I guarantee you that you would.
Well, then I wouldn't do basketball.
Well, then you'd probably suck.
Well, Brian, I want to settle the beef and say thank you for even introducing my name into that conversation.
I had to get you in on Unrooted. It was the last one I had to because I couldn't.
You still owe me an Unrooted.
I know, but because I couldn't get you on Unrooted, I had to at least get you in there. Have RB get you on Okie Vision.
I don't want to be on Okie Vision. I want to be on Unrooted with my best friend.
Well, Unrooted is dead, so.
No, Unrooted is not dead.
Bring it back from the dead like The Undertaker.
Me and Micah were supposed to, but I don't know what happened.
Aaron didn't trust me.
Look at this.
So moving on, you guys are both big baseball fans. I hope you guys both noticed a couple of milestones coming out. Anaheim, our Flores passing Willie Mays for 5th on the list of home runs, and then his teammate Mike Trout hitting his 300th home run this month, also being one of the leaders in the home run category. Do you think our Flores team's Mike Trout could be one day passing him on the list of most home runs?
Why don't we start with you, Giants fan? What do you think?
And let me just put this into context. There are 8 people. So Miguel Cabrera, Edwin Encarnacion, Nelson Cruz, Ryan Brown, Ron Robinson Cano, Jay Bruce, Giancarlo Stanton, Justin Upton, Evan Longoria, the Mike Trout.
These are the active players right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at. Mike Trout is in talks of being one of the greatest professional baseball players of all time. I mean, the man's got it all.
Yep.
So I'm just going to be optimistic and say that, yes, I think he will keep moving up that list. He's one of the best pure hitters in the whole league, has been for a long time. And, yeah, I think you'll still find his name there and moving up in the future. And for,
go ahead. You were going to talk about Pujols?
Oh, yeah, and for Pujols, I mean, how old is he?
It's like almost 40.
Yes, 40 about.
He's coming towards the end of his playing year, so I think that's a great milestone for him, and it's just another award to kind of add towards his Hall of Fame career. So.
Yeah, I think Pujols has a shot at 700. I know that would probably mean he has to. I mean, he'd have to have a really good year next year, but I think he's got maybe 2 more years left in his career in general, whether they're good or bad. But I think he'll get 700. Trout is the interesting one because absolutely he's already one of the greatest baseball players we've ever seen, and certainly he's, I think, the greatest player of our era. I know that's a controversial topic because Bonds was awesome, but I think Trout's he's an amazing player. I just don't think he can sustain the home run pace long enough to get to where Barry Bonds is at. And I think the way the game is going to change over the next 10 years or so, even though it's already transitioning towards more of a home run or bust league, I don't think we're going to see Mike Trout hit 45 to 50 home runs every year for the next 10 years. And that's if he has another, let's just say 10 years in his career, then he'd have to do that to get to that point. And I don't think he will. So I think Trout will probably also wind up in that 700 range. He's going to be close, but I don't think he's going to get there.
What do you think Mike Trout has to do in order to hit that mile mark of 600 or 600 and over, passing his current teammate? Do you think he had to be a good? Me and Kris had this conversation before about Mike Trout and Albert Pujols and Barry Bonds. Do you think Mike Trout would have to become a DH, or could he still play defense and offense?
No, I think he can still play defense and be successful in that category. I mean, Barry Bonds did it. I mean, granted, it was aided by performance-enhancing drugs, but I think he can do it. Mike Trout is a good enough talent to where he can do it. The question is, can his body hold up to it? And it's easy to say right now, yes, he can, because he's 29 years old, 30 years old, whatever he is.
28, actually.
I thought he just turned 29. Are you serious?
He turned 29 on Baseball Reference. It turned 29.
He's 29.
Okay, I was like, God, if he's 28, then take back everything I said. No, but I think with Trout, it's easy to say now his body can hold up to it. Mm-hmm. But the rate at which injuries are just starting to go through the sport, I mean, if he has one season where he misses half the year because of an injury, that's going to set him back. And if you think about what's looming in a couple of years, there could be a strike coming in baseball. Ooh. We may not have a 2022 season. And if there's no 2022 season, that's a year that Mike Trout's not going to hit 40 home runs.
Is that from the CBA deal, or is that just...
Yeah, that's from the CBA because it's going to expire at the end of next season. So if they don't get a deal done, we saw how long it took for them to get this thing going during coronavirus. So I don't know if they're going to play baseball in 2022, and that would severely impact Trout's chances.
When was the last CBA change?
It changes every 6 or 7 years, it seems like. But
wasn't it like in the early 2000s they had a strike as well? Or was it in the 90s?
No, it was the 90s. It was 94. They didn't play the 94 World Series, and then they postponed the beginning of the 95 season.
So let's say moving on. So we're on the cusp of playoff baseball. We talked about you guys' teams already, but who you guys see coming out of each league as we speak right now with 3 games left before the actual playoffs start?
But I'd say that, the National League has a great race going on right now. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said earlier, obviously as a Giants fan, I want the Giants to come out of it. But in the AL, I looked before, so obviously you have the A's, right, that clinched. Did the Rays also clinch also?
I think so.
Yeah, so the Rays have clinched the East.
Okay. Who else? Then the National League is
not Yankees.
Braves, the Dodgers.
So
The
in the
Cubs and the
Nash,
Cardinals.
Okay. It's gonna be a weird playoff, or not a weird playoff. It'll be exciting. I think anyone can basically beat anyone. In my opinion.
do you guys don't think Dodgers are going to go another World Series after the missing out last year?
Oh man, I mean, with the roster and pitching staff that they have, I mean, they should be winning it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, so they're playing in a 3-game series with the A's right now. So this is the first I've actually sat down and watched a game-to-game Dodgers game all year. Man, if they don't come out of the National League, that's a disappointment because that team is stacked. 1 through 9 in the order. The pitching rotation is going to be big in the postseason, and they have depth in the rotation and bullpen. They should come out of the National League. It really shouldn't even be close, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In the American League, that's going to be a complete toss-up. It's going to be, honestly, I don't think it's going to be the best team. I think it's going to be whoever can get the hottest coming out of that wild card round. And so it's going to come down to which team has the best overall pitching staff at the top. And when you look at it from that perspective, I mean, it's honestly kind of tough to go against Cleveland. I mean, what their starting rotation can do, and they have a guy who's easily the AL Cy Young winner, maybe the AL MVP winner in Shane Bieber. When he takes the mound, you're not beating him. So you're going to win a game every single time he pitches, and the rest of the rotation's pretty solid. I'd look out for Cleveland.
All right. So you just mentioned MVP and Cy Young. So MLB posted a list of 5 names that are in the running for each of their positions. So I'm gonna list you guys for the AL Cy Young, and I want to see what you guys' reaction to who's going to be winning it. So we mentioned Shane Bieber.
It's Bieber.
Yeah,
That's it. I don't have to list any more names.
You don't even need to read the rest of the list. If it's not Shane Bieber, I will riot.
Yeah, it's definitely Shane Bieber.
Yeah. Right. What about the NL?
Let's go to the NL. So we have Yu Darvish, Trevor Bauer, Jacob deGrom, Max Fried, and then San Diego's pitcher is Dylan Lamet. I butchered his name, but
yeah,
Kershaw's not in there.
He's considered, but he's not going to win it.
Okay.
There's no way he will. I would like to throw out a St. Mary's name onto the list, someone who's been slept on a little bit. Corbin Burns for the Milwaukee Brewers, a St. Mary's alum, and he's been thrust into rotation. He's got a 1.77 ERA, 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's got some of the best advanced metrics if you're into analytics and whatnot in the National League. So he's someone who's made a name for himself this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts center of the race.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, what about you for the NL?
I want Trevor Bauer. I mean, that guy has electric stuff. I mean, he has a 1.73 ERA. He has 100 strikeouts, and he has a 0.79 WHIP in 11 games. So, I mean, he has the stats to do it. And I really hope the way he's pitched, I mean, he's probably going to get traded, or he's in free agency after this year. So it'll be interesting to see what team he does go to. But the way he's pitched this year, he definitely deserves it, in my opinion.
Yeah, he just recently tweeted out just saying, "Give me that," after his performance, I think last night it was. So he is in talks with that position and that award. Okay, so let's move on to the MVP race. We're going to start with the National League. So we got for the San Diego Padres, Fernando Tatis. Dodgers Mookie Betts, Giants Mikey Spansky, which is actually hurt right now, or unlimited at bats. I heard Chicago's Ian Happ, and then Washington's Trey Turner. What do you guys think of that list, and who do you think is going to win for the National League MVP?
In my opinion, you left off the 2 guys who the race should be down between. It should be between Freddie Freeman and Manny Machado. Those 2 guys, hands down, I think have not only the best numbers, but they've also had the biggest impact on their teams this season. I mean, let's start with Freddie Freeman for the Braves. Dude's got an OPS of 1.106. That's best in the National League. He's got a 347 average, 50 RBIs. He's also a Gold Glove winner at first base, and he's on a team that just clinched the division. That's impressive. And I know they're going to talk more about Manny Machado. And honestly, I can see the argument there. Manny Machado is more valuable, I think, than Tatis because Tatis has been struggling lately. And yet the Padres are still 8-4 over their last 12 games, despite the fact that Tatis's numbers have completely fallen off a cliff here the last couple of weeks. So to me, it's between those two guys. I think they'll give it to Machado, but I'd say Freddie Freeman's having a heck of a season.
Yeah, if you asked me a month ago, it would have been Tatis hands down.
Yeah.
But right now, I think I'd have to agree with Brian and go with Freddie Freeman. So,
okay.
Okay. That was a dark horse, at least from what MLB has given me in the last couple of days. So let's move on to the AL. So we got, which he's always in this, Angels Mike Trout. We said he's going to win the Cy Young, Shane Bieber. Twins, Nelson Cruz. And two White Sox players, Tim Anderson and Jose Abreu.
For me, I think, no one's performed better, in the AL than Shane Bieber. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets both the Cy Young and the AL MVP. But if it's not him, then I would have to go with probably Nelson Cruz. He's had a great year.
The main argument I have for Bieber winning it is think about how difficult it is now in baseball to, hit, let's say this season, to hit 15 home runs, to drive in 40 plus, to have an OPS of 900 or whatever. A lot of players do that in baseball. But not a lot of people in baseball now can have a 1.6 ERA, can strike out 14 guys per 9 innings as a starting pitcher. Those numbers are like completely taken out of the 1960s. So that's the argument for Bieber. I don't think Bieber is going to win it, so I think Jose Abreu should get it. And if you think about what the White Sox have been this season, I thought they'd be a postseason team going in, given the old format that we had. I thought they'd sneak in as a wild card contender in a 60-game stretch. But man, Jose Abreu has been elite this season. He leads the AL in RBIs. He's got a 333 average. He's scoring runs. He's doing everything for Chicago. And he's a main cog in that offense, which has been one of the best in baseball.
Okay, so this goes back because you guys both said Shane Bieber is your favorite choice to win the MVP. There was conversations back when Dodgers ace Clayton Kershaw won both the Cy Young and MVP. A lot of people say there's already a war for pitchers. They should not be considered MVPs. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
I think it's stupid. If the guy performs, and if he has let me rephrase this. Well, I still think it's dumb. But if he performs overall better than the whole league in his job, in the job he's doing, then he deserves the award. Then
pitchers are players, right?
Yeah.
They're on a baseball team. So yes, they should be eligible for the award. Now, is it easy to win? Absolutely not. And I think it should take a historically great season to win that award. Is Shane Bieber having that type of a season? Yes. And that's why I think he can be eligible and should be in the top 3.
All right. I'll move on to the Rookie of the Year. I lost my paperwork on them, but if you guys have any rookies off the top of your head, you think you're going to win it. We've seen a couple of rookies really shine in this just shortened season, coming in just with no real AAA or any minor league system this year. They're just pretty much shot right into the bigs. Do you guys have any rookies in mind that could win it?
In the American League, Kyle Lewis has been spectacular. I've obviously gotten to see him play a bunch since the A's have played Seattle. He's showing shades of Ken Griffey Jr. in a lot of aspects. So I think he's got to be a contender there. And when you go to the National League, Vic Cronenworth of the Padres has had a great year. Don't sleep on the reliever, Devin Williams, for the Milwaukee Brewers. Dude's given up 1 run all season and has 52 strikeouts. He's been just filthy this season.
Yeah.
So those guys are strong.
Stats.
Yeah, those guys are strong.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with basically all of Brian's choices. That's who I had in mind too when I read the question. But another name that I like to mention is Alec Bohm with the Phillies. He's batting .333 with a .401 on base percentage, and he basically moved himself up to the number 3 spot in their lineup. So I think he's great too.
And last one, Manager of the Year.
Manager of the year is always tough because a lot of times it's easy to just give it to whoever has the best record, and I think that's a valid point. But I think this year in the American League, it's going to be really tough not to go with the White Sox and with the Padres. The names of their managers are slipping my mind. I think it's Rick Renteria. Is he managing the White Sox, I think?
Yes.
So Renteria for the American League. I think that's depending on them winning the division, of course. They're right now in a tie for first. And then what's that? Jace Tingler, I think, is the name of the Padres manager.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Something like that. But yeah, I mean, he should get it in the National League, I think, hands down, because the meteoric rise of that team and what he's been able to do, despite some injuries to their bullpen, he's kept that team pretty strong. And I mean, they're definitely a legitimate title contender in the National League.
Yeah, in the National League, definitely the Padres. Or maybe I'll throw a wild card out there, even the Reds manager. I forgot what his name is. But yeah, for sure the White Sox in the AL also.
All right. Thank you, Kris, for talking about the MLB with these guys. I know these guys are big MLB fans, but let's move on to No Fun League, the NFL.
MLB.
For the NFL, these past 2 weeks, what has impressed you overall from each team? I mean, obviously there's so much, but what has impressed you overall from the past 2 weeks since the NFL started?
It's a you question, Brian.
I think what's impressed me the most is how there haven't been any positive COVID tests. Honestly, I mean, the fact that we've been able to play 2 weeks of football, and this will be the third week without any threats to players having to sit out, without any games having to be postponed, I think that's honestly been the most impressive aspect of it so far.
I think the number one thing that impressed me is, damn, your fucking Cowboys came back against a god-awful Atlanta team that literally
they never should have fallen behind 20-0 in the first place. But
well, what did that? What did that feel like?
Yeah,
though?
Did you watch that game? Like, describe your emotions going through that. Like the onside kick, especially.
That was
so
retarded.
That week. Last week I was actually on the tail end of a cold. It was not COVID, I'll tell you that, but I was sick. So I was up for kickoff. I saw us fumble 3 times on our first 5 drives, and then I fell asleep. So I missed a majority of the middle of the game, and then I was just pissed off and didn't want to turn it back on. So I was just watching Red Zone channel. I missed most of the comeback. How they recovered the onside kick, I have absolutely no idea, because I feel like Atlanta forgot because they're so good at recovering onside kicks. I think they were treating that like they were on the attack and trying to recover it. So they had to wait for it instead of pouncing on it. I don't know what happened there, but a super lucky break for Dallas to then be able to get into field goal position and get a win and salvage a 1-1 start to the year, because they were 0-2 going into Seattle next week. That's tough.
Now, Brian, I got a quick question for you. Is Dak Prescott the future for the Cowboys?
Say that.
Yes, but only because I don't know who would be if it isn't Dak Prescott.
Trevor Lawrence?
Well, you'd have to tank for him, and I think we're past that because we just pulled off a miraculous win.
Who else do you think would tank for him, though?
Well, I thought Jacksonville would, but they're
Gardner Minshew.
So Gardner Minshew's for real, man. Minshew mania. I don't know who's going to tank for him, honestly, but someone will. But back to Dak Prescott, I think he's a very, very good quarterback in the NFL. I think, though, as with most quarterbacks, you have to have the right pieces around the quarterback in order to thrive. And the big thing that's been the Dallas Cowboys' problem for years is that they haven't had an offensive line. I know they had, Tyron Smith, and they had Zach Frederick, and they had, Frederick. They had Zach Martin. They had those guys on the offensive line for years, and it was at the end of the Tony Romo era, the beginning of the Dak Prescott era, but they didn't have the rest of the team together. Now it seems like there are pieces on both sides of the ball that can work, but the offensive line's starting to deteriorate again. And so Dak's having to scramble, play from behind, play for his life. I think that's a big problem. So I'm fearful we could be in for another 500 season, and that's going to leave a lot of people thinking, well, maybe he isn't the future of this team.
I'm not sure if you watched the game, but did you catch a little glimpse of the Raiders versus the Saints?
I did, yeah.
Did you realize that Gruden ran Spider 2 wide banana?
I did, yes.
I think that was one of the highlights for just Monday Night Football and football, or the second week in general, is that he ran one of the greatest plays of all time. That he
A
says these days.
Spider 2 wide banana on 4, eh? Knock on wood if you're with me.
So for this coming week, obviously Miami is playing Jacksonville right now, but we have a lot of good matchups this coming weekend. The Raiders play New England. I'm trying to look at other games as well. Houston plays Pittsburgh. Goddamn, and Green Bay plays Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. And then on Monday next week, you have Kansas City versus Baltimore. What do you think will happen this weekend, especially with that Monday night game against Mahomes versus goddamn Baltimore?
That Monday night game is going to be a lot of fun, man. Mahomes, Jackson, the two MVPs of the league the last 2 years going head to head. I don't want to say it's going to be shades of that Chiefs-Rams game we had on Monday night a couple of years back, but it has the makings of a complete barn burner that could be, both teams putting up 40-plus points. I would not be surprised if that's the case, because even though both teams have respectable defenses, and Baltimore's is really good, I just think the dynamic offenses are going to be so much that we're going to see a lot of points scored on Monday night. I do think Kansas City wins the game. I don't think they're going to win by a lot. It's going to be really close, but I think they're going to pull this one out in a nail biter.
Nice. Lastly, for the NFL, with all the news that happened with Tom Brady moving, Cam Newton going up to New England, a lot of different moves around, and with a lot of the injuries that happened this past weekend, now set for the future in the next couple of weeks, who do you think is the best contender for the championship on the NFC and AFC side?
Well, on the AFC side, I think the winner of Monday night's game has a really great shot, obviously, because both those teams are going to be factoring into the playoff picture, and you'd have that a meeting in the back pocket where they already won. So I think you have to look at both those teams. Pittsburgh, don't sleep on them, especially if Ben Roethlisberger can continue the offense the way he has so far here in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The NFC, I did not think Green Bay was even going to make the postseason this year, and here they are 2-0, and they have the best offense in football 2 weeks in. Mm-hmm. So Green Bay looks legit right now on both sides of the football. But, man, that NFC West is loaded. I mean, right now we're honestly looking at a situation where the 49ers, the defending NFC champions, look like the worst team in that division, and that's a surprise.
Sorry, Chris.
As I said, tank for Trevor.
Well, I mean, yeah, because is Jimmy G the guy? Who knows? But that you could pick almost any team out of that NFC West as a
Cardinals look a little
contender.
scary, honestly.
They do, man. DeAndre Hopkins has been a huge addition to that offense.
Well, let's move on to other news. Black Lives Matter happened so early into the summer, within months of even this, days within summer even starting, with the George Floyd murder and recent shooting of Jacob Blake, and then this most recent decision to indict one officer out of how many officers were out of Breonna Taylor's house or apartment at that time. How do you think sports as a whole has really adjusted and really pushed forward the push for enacting the negatives? Just
enacting social reform.
Yeah.
I think they've done a really good job using their platform. I mean, sports are global, and it's something that, especially during coronavirus, it's something that a lot of us have turned to as kind of like our only quote unquote escape. So I know a lot of people don't want to see this political nature being pushed into sports, but sports has a platform, and the athletes, the coaches, the league officials, they're finally realizing that and saying, hey, we can hopefully bring about change. And so I applaud them for doing that. I think they've done a great job. Obviously, you see it every day. There's a ton of stuff we still have to work on as a country, as a society. But I think what sports has done, bring these issues to a head to people who would probably just bury their own heads in the sand and say, well, I don't care about this. I think now they're kind of forced to also care about it. And that's really what we're trying to do here. Is we're trying to get people aware of what's going on and then get people angered by what's happening. And I think athletes, coaches alike, they've done a great job of that so far.
Yeah, I think Brian basically just took all the words out of my mouth. Like he said, they're doing a great job of raising awareness. Obviously, with some examples I can think of, like just for the athletes, are the NBA can put whatever they want on the back of their jerseys, and a lot of players are using that to raise awareness towards social injustice. And obviously, for me, like I mean, that's one of my research like kind of projects that I'm doing. So it's something that I'm kind of passionate about is athletes using their own platform to raise awareness for these kind of problems in our country. Like you have the biggest, like almost some of the biggest celebrities in the world, people look up to them, right? I mean, for me, I think it's awesome for them to use that the big platform they have to raise awareness to these issues and kind of to help fans kind of realize that too. Because like Brian said, these are some people that might bury their heads in the sand and kind of say, "Oh, I don't care."
Yeah. Following to before July started, there were talks about the NBA starting, MLB starting. No talks of the NFL, but NCAA just not starting in general, and that kind of reformed to Pac-12 developing a group of both for their sakes of COVID and BLM. Um, Before everything started, do you think that sports kind of should be put on the back burner? Because if all of these athletes are going to be, talking about social reform and social injustice, do you think that their sports should have just taken a second, a back seat while they worked on this issue first?
Surprised sports came back in general, but it has nothing to do with social reform. I was surprised he came back because of the coronavirus situation.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great quote from Sean Doolittle, pitcher for the Washington Nationals. He said that sports should be a reward for a functioning society.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't that functioning society, so why are all these leagues coming back and pushing through protocols that don't necessarily put player safety first? So I was surprised in general that they came back. And then when, like you said, all these Black Lives Matters issues started popping up on top of coronavirus, it's like, why are we still trying to get these leagues back? But I think it just comes down to players have the biggest platform when they're on the stage performing. If they're not on that stage, then their platform is a lot smaller and it's on the side. So get them out there, get them playing, and then they can use their platform, their stage to bring about real change.
Yeah, I agree with that. Probably the last question I have for Black Lives Matter is relates to a Dallas owner. I mean, you know him very well, Brian, Jerry Jones, who really didn't say anything during the time of Black Lives Matter throughout the entire summer. What are your reactions to the inactivity that Jerry Jones displayed?
His inactivity is just pandering to his local fan base, I think, and perhaps even the greater Cowboys fan base as a whole. I mean, I know they're a national brand and a global brand, but I think, his team's in the heart of Texas, and the heart of Texas is not exactly a democratic country. So it doesn't really surprise me that he was silent on these issues. He's doing what's best for his own pocket, which shouldn't necessarily be the thing that he's doing right now, but it's the route that he took. I'll say I'm glad that if I had to choose between him saying something that wound up being, like, hey, dude, you shouldn't say that, versus being silent, I'm glad he was silent if having to choose between those two. But obviously, if someone like Jerry Jones came out and took the side of the players and agreed with the messages that are being pushed now from these social groups, I mean, that would be big news. And I think you would then see, I think maybe even a stronger push for change to happen across the NFL and across the country as a whole.
Now, my last question. Do you think Kaepernick should be put back into the league? Or brought back, not put back?
I'm only saying no because he's been out of the league for so long. I think when this whole thing started, was he better than other backup quarterbacks? Yes. Was he better than some starters a couple years ago? Yeah, you can make that argument as well. I think the reason he isn't in the league now is, again, because he's been out for so long. But I think also it just comes down to a distraction thing. And it's why, even though Tim Tebow didn't have the same kind of actual success that Colin Kaepernick had, and it's somewhat of a loose argument, but Tim Tebow was a distraction on any roster that he was on, even if he wasn't going to have a shot at being the starting quarterback. And so if you're going to bring in Colin Kaepernick, right now I don't know there are too many teams where he would be a better option than the guy they have starting. So he would be a backup. And NFL teams and owners, they just don't want that distraction. Whether it's right or wrong, they don't want the distraction. And because of that, he's not in the NFL. Is he talented enough? Yes. But again, he's been out of the league for so long. It's tough to be out of a field for so long, even if you're in shape, and come back and try to perform at a high level. It's just tough. I don't need my list. Your list is stupid.
Just as long as you're saying it's me, then I'm fine.
All right, guys. Thanks for your perspectives on the news that we brought up. Kind of to bring it back up to a little bit of a lighter note, I have a list of 28 Menlo College athletes that in the past 5 years that I've noticed, and to give a fair chance for Aaron to rate, and then obviously Brian's the oldest of us, so he's seen all of these athletes. So I kind of want you guys to rank them from 1 to 28. And then I also have a second list of top 10 baseball players. The first 5 are pitchers, and they're rated by ERA, and the last 5 are rated by OBS and slug. So let's start off with number 20.
Are you really expecting us to give a list of 20 some odd
28
athletes?
Or 20.
Dude, this list is going to take a long time. I hope you know that.
5.
Austin did it. My other 2 friends did it, and that took fine, and that was fine. Brian.
All right. Well, 28 is Aaron Flores.
That's brutal.
I don't know why he's on this list.
It's 20.
I don't know why am I on that list? I played like half a season each season, so it equals 1 season.
He's not on the list. Aaron Flores should not be on the list. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, Aaron, you're 20.
I agree. I don't. Who mine? Mine is myself. Mine's not. I'm not even on. The list. Yeah.
Number 19.
This is
hard because
this is the most difficult thing
you guys
I've ever
could
done
not pick numbers before instead of just looking at it
because
now.
I didn't think we'd actually rank the top 28. This is what I thought.
Number 5. Hurry up and do your number 5.
Well, okay, now hold on. You can't just say hurry up because we have to have a discussion about these 5 people. So I'm going to go number 5. I'm going to say Lucas Ursek. He played baseball. He was only here for 1 season. It was 2016. But he got drafted in the 2nd round by the Milwaukee Brewers, highest draft pick ever out of Menlo College, and led at what the time was the most prolific offense to have ever come through Menlo, while also throwing 96 miles an hour as our closer. Lucas Ursek's number 5 for me.
All right, Aaron, you're number 5.
For me, in my limited Menlo athletic knowledge in my 2 years, I would go with Ross Williams. I always enjoyed watching him play. Very passionate and competitive player who always brought a spark to the court. So I'd definitely put him in my top 5.
All right. Brian, you're number 4.
My number 4, I'm going to go with the person who I think is probably the greatest sharpshooter that I've ever seen on campus. I'm going to go with Selena Pagan at number 4. I think that Selena, hands down, was an exciting player. You could count on her for big buckets all the time. And she also led one of the best Menlo teams to have come through, at least in our era, when the Oaks went all the way to the round of 8 in the NAIA national tournament. So Selena was fantastic. She was the standout player on those teams. I have to go Selena Pagan.
All right, Aaron, you're number 4.
Mine's going to be Moya on the women's volleyball team. I could honestly say that working the women's volleyball games, it was always a just an exciting sight to see that girl spike it and someone's like, I can cuss, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Spike it into the fucking ground. Like that fired me up. So I'm just number 4.
All right, Brian, you're number 3.
I will, Aaron. I like your selection of Moya there. She's out of my top 5 just because of her career, because I saw her all 4 years. But her 2019 season might be one of the most impressive seasons I've ever seen across any sport. So
I agree with
hats
that.
off to Moya for that. Number 3, man, this one's tough because we're getting into some really good athletes here. Number 3, I'm going to say, is Edin Ibrahimovic. I like you including him on this list just simply because he plays men's volleyball, and it's a new sport on campus and a new sport really in the NAIA, and you can just tell how head and shoulders better he is than everybody else. Like, it's not even close. He's got a crazy vertical. He smashes it into the ground. And he's just good on offense, defense, whatever you need him. He's a fiery leader. I'm going with Edin at number 3.
Aaron?
For me, I'm going to go John Payne. I feel like the all-time leading scorer in Menlo College history for men's basketball. So I can't leave him off the list. So.
Brian, number 2.
My number 2 is a tie. I know you asked for the top 5, but we're going with a tie at number 2. Because as I'm making this top 5, I realized I actually had 6 people I wanted to put in here. So the tie at number 2 is going to be between Anthony Orozco and Katie Chesson for wrestling, actually. So Anthony Orozco on the men's side, Katie Chesson on the women's side. Man, Anthony Orozco, 2-time national champion for the men's wrestling team. That dude is a just stud, and when you see him, he's built like a national champion. I mean, he's just ripped in all aspects. So Anthony's on there for sure. And Katie Chesson was like the first, when I was at Menlo, like one of the first big studs we had on the women's wrestling team. I know there were studs before her, but she was like one of the big wrestlers when I was there. I know Solyn Piercy's had a lot of success recently as a national champion. You have Precious Bell and Gracie Figueroa and Elena Martinez. But for me, Katie Chesson was the first one I saw, and she was fantastic.
Aaron, number 2.
For me, I'm going to go Solyn. Brian mentioned even before we got on the podcast that 2-time Natty national champion, right, Brian?
Yep.
So it's got to be on there.
Right, and you're number 1, Brian.
Number 1, to me, it's not even close. Kaylin Swart. She is hands down the best athlete I've ever seen come through campus. She was the soccer goalie on the women's team for a number of years, and my goodness, she was a brick wall. I know the Oaks never won any championships with her as the goalie, but she kept that team in so many games, and we had a friendship off the pitch as well. But she was just such a spectacular athlete. The save she could make. I think one of the things I probably said most on the air during soccer broadcast was Saved by Swart, because she was just incredible between the pipes, and has since gone on to play in the Olympics. She was at the World Cup last year for South Africa and actually got to start one of the games. So she's hands down, for me, at least in my era of Menlo, she's been the best athlete I've ever gotten to see.
Aaron, you're number 1.
For me, it's going to have to be Brian Brownfield on the Menlo Ultimate Frisbee team. In my 2 years at Menlo, I've never seen anyone roam the campus with such athletic prowess and confidence. So just seeing him just going out there and giving it everything he's got just takes the cake for me. And that's my top Menlo athlete.
Sticky fingers. Okay. I'm at number 5. So my number 5 baseball player of all time, I'm going to say, is Mike Trout. And I'm going to say Mike Trout at number 5 because he still has a lot of his career left, and he's in the modern era where a lot of different things can change. But as of right now, even all-encompassing with his career, he'd be number 5.
Okay.
Brian, stop copying me. I was going to say Mike Trout for the thing.
Well, then how about you go first next time
instead
of having
Aaron,
me go first?
Discuss why Mike Trout number 5, then you're going to go with 4.
All right. Mike Trout's number 5 just because like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, he's probably Mine and Brian or basically all of our generations, probably he's the face of an MLB right now, and he still has a lot of career left ahead of him. So he's number 5. Number 4, I'm gonna say Babe Ruth. You can't have the Babe not on your top 5, pitcher and hitter, and he was thick. So Babe Ruth.
I didn't know body type factored into the qualification.
That was not in our like discussions here. This is all his decision. Like,
hey, Aaron loves them thick boys. We Filipino boys do like thick people. All right.
Generates lots of power.
Yeah.
Brian,
what number are we on?
We're
Number
on
4?
4. You weren't gone very long. My number 4, I'm going to say Ted Williams. He was one of the greatest hitters of all time when it comes to Major League Baseball. Someone who served our country as well. I know that's not factored into this, but I think Ted Williams, I mean, he was the last guy to hit for a 400 average in a season. So I'll go Ted Williams on the list.
Okay, Aaron, let's go with team number 3.
Number 3 is Mariano Rivera.
Our first pitcher.
Yes. He is the best closer of all time, and he deserves to be on number 3 on the list.
Number 3 on my list, I was also most likely going to go with a pitcher in the number 3 spot. My number 3 pitcher, though, of all time, I'm going to go with the recency bias and say Randy Johnson, because I saw him pitch, and growing up, Randy Johnson was, I mean, just someone you didn't want to face. The dude was dominant, had the best fastball in the game for years, and had a long career that spanned, 20-plus years, one of the highest strikeout totals of all time in baseball history. Randy Johnson's on there.
Okay, Aaron, let's go with number 2.
Number 2, I'm going to take Brian's number 4 and put it as my number 2. I'm going to go Ted Williams. He was a great player, definitely one of the best of all time, and I'm going to put him at number 2 on my list.
I'm glad you said who my number 4 was, because I didn't remember who my number 4 was, so thank you for that. My number two, you're going to love this one, but I'm going to go with someone who's not even on this list. I'm going to go Walter Johnson, the train. We're going back-to-back Johnsons, Walter and Randy. Walter Johnson, second most wins all time. I'm fairly confident he also has a top 5 strikeout total in baseball history. He wasn't the original Cy Young, because Cy Young came first, but Walter Johnson was next on that list. Like, he was a dominant pitcher for a long time. Of the Washington Senators, Walter Johnson, number 2.
All right, Aaron, you're number 1 overall.
Oh, man. See, this is going to be controversial. I'm going to give you 2.
If you don't name the person that has a disease named after him, you are fucked up.
Well, I'm going to be fucked up then, because I'm going to say Barry Bonds and Willie Mays.
God.
Okay.
All right, you're up, Brian.
Brian, you're up.
Brian, you're number 1.
I think it's impossible to do this. Like, this list is impossible. And our list is incredibly horrible. Aaron, if we were doing the best curveball of all time, I would say Barry Zito, but that's not what we're doing. So Barry Zito's not number 1. I'm going to take the guy who I think was Micah's number 4 or 3 or whatever, and say Mariano Rivera. Here's why I say Mariano Rivera as number 1. And I know he was a closer, so he only pitched 1 inning at a time, and I know nobody thinks of it. But this dude, for his entire career, threw basically 1 pitch. Talk about knowing what's coming, and you still couldn't hit it. So if you can do that for 20 years and lead baseball in saves and have one of the best postseason careers also, because he was a great postseason closer, man, I'm going Mariano number 1. Enter Sandman.
Best walkout song of all time, Major League Baseball.
Both, but number 5 chose Mike Trout, the up-and-coming on this list. Like, I think the only active on the list we guys gave you guys. Number 4 for Brian was Ted Williams. And Aaron, you chose Babe Ruth. Number 3 was...
Firstly, I'm surprised Aaron went back-to-back Yankees.
Did he? back to back?
Yeah,
oh
he
yeah,
went
he did.
Mariano
Number 3 was
and-
Mariano Rivera.
I wasn't going by the team. I was just going by the overall performance.
I thought you would have put Willie Mays at 2.
Willie Mays wasn't an option. I just had to
Yeah,
think.
you didn't put Willie Mays on.
I go off
See,
sports.
Brian's your number 3. I feel like I forgot, but
Randy
like I want
Johnson.
yes, Randy Johnson. I was gonna say Randy Johnson. Like I feel like you said someone else, but it was Randy Johnson. Aaron, your number 2 was Ted
A
Williams.
Stupid tie. Oh wait, no, that was his 1. Never mind.
And then a stupid tie
Yeah.
was his number 1.
Number 1, but Brian, your number 2 was Walter Jones.
Johnson.
Johnson. My handwriting sucks. If no one knows, I can't even read it myself. And then Aaron, you had a tie for number 1 with Barry Bonds and Willie Mays.
And Bryce.
Homer.
Just kidding.
Homer.
And who? And who?
Barry Bonds and Willie Mays.
No, who is the third person you just said?
As a joke, I said Bryce Harper.
And now I'm really done.
And then
Okay,
Brian,
I have a-
you're
Okay, go.
Number
Finish the last. Finish the last.
the best closer in the league, Mariano Rivera.
Thank
You
you.
guys have really good lists right there. A lot of names to choose from, a lot of players that we weren't able to talk about, but thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you guys for joining us today. I know that was a hellacious ending of a goddamn podcast, but me and Kris do appreciate both Brian and Aaron to coming out. My Filipino brother and Aaron and my former boss in Brian. Do you guys have anything to say to our fans?
No, it's beer o'clock. We've been on here long enough.
Thank you for having me, Micah and Kris. I really appreciate it, and it gave me something fun to do in my quarantine times.
Well, thank you, Aaron, for coming on. Brian, go get that goddamn beer, you old man.
I'm getting that too. I'm going to
Okay.
sleep.
Nice.
Anyone? Sounds good.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification button right next to the subscribe button. Like and share this video so everyone can see, as well as go down to the comments because we will be reading those comments if you guys put them down there, and we want to know what other news you guys wanted to see. That being said, guys, I'm Micah. That's Kris. That's Brian. That's The Undertaker. And that is Aaron. We'll see you guys next time.